What's up, squash players? It's Pierre. Today we have a special guest, Rob from Squash Gear Reviews, and we thought it would be fun to do a tournament teardown.
Tournament teardown.
So a tournament teardown, what we thought we would do is we would go through some of the matches from the most recent PSA tournament, the Black Ball. We would have a look through some of the equipment the guys are using, and as well as that, we kind of pick out some of the highlight matches and maybe give a little bit of context around some of the things happening. So Pierre, over to you, round one.
One of the fun matches from the first round, sort of a surprise, was the match between Asal and the Indian. I'm a little reluctant to try the last name. Mangokar?
We'll stick with Mahesh.
Mahesh, yeah. These two guys, they came out just blasting the ball. I mean, it was incredible to see. And Asal, of course, he had played Paul Cole, I think, in the previous tournament and scored a big upset there. So we were thinking that this would be a bit of a quick match for him. It didn't turn out that way, though, did it?
No, not at all. I think it was quite a surprise. Mahesh really brought it to him. I mean, the match itself was 3-2 and Asal took the win. I was slightly conflicted with this game. I wanted Mahesh to win just for the underdog, but then again, if Asal won this match, it would set him up for a game against Paul Cole, a rematch that I'm sure lots of people wanted to watch. Next match, which again was another 3-2, was Declan James versus Diego Elias. Any thoughts on that game?
You know, I was watching that one live, and it looked like Declan was tired. You know, he just wasn't really sparking all that well, and all of a sudden he made it really close and really interesting.
He really took it to Diego. I was really pleasantly surprised. The thing that set the two apart was the fifth game. Diego just had that little bit extra energy, but it was good. It was a really good match, and I was gutted for Declan. But I think Diego kind of shone through, and that's what sets that top five kind of level apart. And quickly on Declan's racket, right on cue.
Oh, there you go. That's the one.
One thing that I think stood out for me with Declan's racket was how well it handled vibrations. It's a really strange racket in that when you hit the ball, you just don't feel it. It's solid. Incredibly powerful racket. Really surprised with that one. Diego's racket, have you used that one before?
I have, and actually I have been testing out, as I know you have as well, the recent updates to the Ultimate and the Elite. I've been really enjoying that and considering switching back to that traditional head shape this year, possibly just for variety, but I like the entry that they have put out there this year that Dunlop has in the Elite and the Ultimate range.
Right, next match in the first round. This was brilliant. This was James Willstrop and Youssef Ibrahim. So Ibrahim just come off the back of an incredible win over Mohamed El Shabagi. I think eyes were on him to kind of pull perhaps another upset out of the bag, but James Willstrop, being James Willstrop, completely nullified any attack that Youssef could have had and just played perfect squash.
It was really impressive to watch. They were making fun of it not making fun of it, but they were commenting on it during the broadcast about how many times he thunked his racket against the side walls, the back wall. I think he broke his racket, didn't he, along the way?
Yeah, Ibrahim unfortunately may have cracked a frame on the wall. Ibrahim's one to watch though, I think.
For now, it was nice to see the wisdom and the craftsmanship of Willstrop be able to contain him. One more from the first round, even though it wasn't that exciting of a match in the end, was Cole versus Victor Crouin, the undergrad at Harvard.
Yeah, that was quite a surprising match, that. I thought it was going to be quite close. I kind of thought Crouin, he's been on a roll recently. He's kind of played some really strong matches, and I thought this might be the tournament for him, but that was not to be. This was Paul's first match with his brand new, I've got one here, head racket.
Oh, you have it. Nice.
Yes. He's using the Graphene 360 120 Slim Body. There you go. It rolls off the tongue.
It really does.
But this was his new racket. He'd been teasing it for about a week on social media. All the little racket nerds like me trying to work out what it was going to be. I figured it out, I'm proud to say.
Did you? Nice. I thought maybe it was gonna be another brand, but yeah, so he's moved on from looks like he's moved on from I, although he's still using their shoes.
I really like the racket that he's gone to. I used it myself for about a year. Very powerful, very forgiving, very manoeuvrable. I think the only problem that I found is breaks a little bit easily. I've managed to break a couple. I know a couple of people who have, but that maybe says more about my game than the racket itself. So on to round 2 then. Any matches that jumped out to you at all?
Yeah, so we were going to talk over maybe Rodriguez versus Zahed Salem, and this was another clash of experience versus youth to some extent. And Rodriguez, although you don't think of him as maybe on the older side because he's always a youthful character, but after he had just come off a 3-2 match, and I was thinking maybe that he was going to really have trouble staying with the younger Salem.
Yeah, I mean, he's 34 is Rodriguez. He's just 4 years younger than Will Strop, who's probably one of the most senior players on tour now. But you would never, ever, ever guess watching him run around. He came back from 2-0 down as well to win 3-2.
What else did you see in round 2?
Round 2, elephant in the room.
Yes.
Mustafa Asal versus Paul Cole. So that match doesn't really need an introduction, but for those who may or may not have seen it, the last time they played, Asal won 3-2. But it maybe wasn't the match that stole the headlines. It was his celebration afterwards, trying to tear his top off, throwing it into the crowd. I'm sure everyone's got their own opinion on that. I was just really looking forward to this rematch.
This was a major main event for this, especially after both had come through that first round. And it seemed like Cole was just keeping everything sort of Willstrop-esque, keeping it tight, keeping it away from the middle, and not allowing Asal to really express himself. Cole started off strong, winning the first, and seemed like he was maybe going to keep it kind of locked down and cruise to victory, but there was a lot of twists and turns.
Asal kind of hacked away at Cole's defences, and before you knew it, he was, cheering up the crowd. He's getting them all into it. He definitely feeds off the crowd.
He's a performer, isn't he? He likes to be on stage and really enjoys that, from the celebrations at the end, but even through all the match, he's really, getting the crowd. He's like a Jimmy Connors to kind of
definitely.
Think about my old school tennis reference.
Asal took the 3-2 win. The top came off again.
Top came off again. He really struggled though. He struggled to get the top off.
I think it's the eye t-shirts. They're very stretchy and very hard to rip.
Right.
I've not tried it, and I don't think I'm going to try it. They're quite expensive.
I think I might keep my celebrations to the fist pump.
Right. Let's move on. Any other matches that jumped out to you at all?
Well, this was just a fun one for the for all the squash enthusiasts out there, was to see Diego and Gaultier go at it. Two Dunlop players again. Another Dunlop head-to-head.
Right on cue. We've got the two rackets here, but it's kind of a false positive almost. These are not the rackets that they are using.
No, I think you can see in some of the photos of Gaultier, he's probably using an older racket that has been customized heavily. That's fine. I think that the pros, a lot of times, in our gig as squash reviewers, people want to know what the pros are playing with. Even if they're using the standard frame, pros are tweaking these things endlessly to get the exact balance they want. And I think for people out there that are looking at squash rackets, you just got to pick one that is consistent and works for you, and not necessarily what works for Gaultier. Right?
Yeah, I think the difference between us and them is that they know exactly what they like. They've liked it for however many years, and they want to stick with it. I remember watching a video once of I think it was Jonathan Power. He was talking about when Dunlop sent him some rackets through. He ended up just some blank rackets for him to choose. He ended up picking their cheapest racket that they produced and stuck with it. But this match then, it was kind of a student versus the master. I know Diego's been training a lot with Greg. Yeah, I thought Greg was going to really get in Diego's head. And kind of that, if he was going to win by anyway, I think he'd just be trying to play the mental game against him. We've seen Greg do that before and so many times, but we didn't really see that from Greg, and I think he knew when he was beat. Elias played a brilliant game and didn't give Greg any options.
Yeah, Elias has gotten so strong. He's so smooth, and it's hard to break down. It's good to see Greg trying to do what's very difficult coming back from that injury.
Squash will be a much different sport without him when he does finally hang up those shoes. Quarterfinals. Any matches that you want to quickly cover on this one?
Well, we were, of course, then Asal having come through against Cole, we're curious to see how he would fare against Rodriguez, who had come back so strongly. And man, it was a real, it was an easy win. I mean, it was a 3-0.
Yeah, it's maybe where Rodriguez's age might come in. He's not invincible. He just played 2 80-minute 3-2 matches in a row. Obviously, Asal had just played 3-2 against Cole, but he has the beauty of youth on his side and can probably recover a little bit quicker. I think he just had too much firepower, too much in the tank. He was 4-0 down in the third game and then scored 10 points in a row. Another match that I think jumped out, Dasuki versus Elias. I think any betting people would have probably backed Elias, but not to be.
Not to be. I had Elias picked for the final, and Dasuki came and really dispatched him. I did not think Dasuki had it in him to, when it got tight, to really focus and keep his head together. He's kind of an emotional player, and sometimes there's a refereeing decision or something that throws him off, and he just kind of crumples for a few points. And you can't at this level give up even 1 point, much less sort of a sequence of them.
I reckon he's probably had some sports psychology work in the background. He looks a lot tougher mentally now. But yeah, it was great to see Fares push through into the semi-finals. So, speaking of semi-final, Farag kind of showed his true world number one qualities in that 3-0 against Asal. It was really obvious. Farag's tactics, it was to keep it to the back, keep it medium pace, keep it kind of high, don't let Asal take anything. It was like Cole's plan initially, but done to a kind of a much higher standard, I think. He just nullified everything from Asal, didn't he?
It's incredible to see Farag do that, and when you watch Asal just blasting every ball and keeping people on their toes, and then see Farag just kind of get it. Even if he gets a short ball, he'll just lift it, almost hit like a high drop shot, but tight to the wall, constantly just keeping it in full lockdown mode. So he had both the ability to keep it tight and everything under control like Willstrop, but with also the speed and court movement to kind of pick up those surprise attacks. I mean, he really showed a lot of skill there to keep Asal contained.
It works, and that's why he's the world number one.
Right.
One interesting thing was Asal's blister. That's what he seemed to blame his loss on a little bit. You'd think, I mean, I've had a blister in the exact same place, but that's when I've had 5 weeks off and I've come back and played a bit too much. But, for someone like Asal who's playing every day, it's really surprising to see him get a blister.
Yeah, when's the last time you got a new blister?
Yeah, credit to Farag, he had a game plan and he played it perfectly. And I think even if Asal was 100%, I still don't think it would have been any different as a result. Other match in the semi that jumped out to me was Dasuki. It's the only other match, was Dasuki versus Momin. That was a huge match for Dasuki, wasn't it?
Once again, I counted Dasuki out. I thought he just doesn't have... Okay, he got lucky in the last round, but against Momin, he's just not going to be able to keep it together for long enough. And again, he just came out blasting. I mean, he's a bit Asal-esque. I feel like the level of power hitting, there's just this cohort of players that are just bringing the power game to new heights, because we've seen Farag with his control. I mean, Shorbagy obviously has a power player, but he mixes it up a lot with chips down the wall. Dasuki just once again came out blasting and really took it to Momin.
He clocked that he wasn't really going to win on the endurance side. I mean, Momin's probably one of the fittest players on tour. I mean, Dasuki is as well. If you see him, used to be a gymnast, so he's got a lot of strength. But I think aerobic endurance, I think you're not going to beat Momin in that way. So some of the winners that he slotted in were just unbelievable. In fact, his match winning point was, it was shot of the month candidate for sure.
Oh, was that the one where he just slammed it cross court into the net?
Yeah, I think he was
That's right.
about 10-7, or it might have been 10-7, 10-8. Wasn't even that much of a option for it, but he just absolutely ripped it backhand volley into the net to win.
And so he moves on to the final.
Farag was hitting his targets, playing his like lovely little volley backhand drop that he always plays into the front. He was looking strong and kind of out of nowhere. I wish I'd put a bet on at this point in time. I think the odds would have been pretty good.
Goodness.
Dasuki bringing it back, wasn't
It seemed like he just, once again, well, first of all, first game, tons of tins, so many errors. He just didn't seem like he was he didn't start off on a good foot. Maybe it was nerves. And it seemed like the second he started to play better, but Farag still had him, locked down. And it feels like in the third, he almost just went, you know what, like my buddies are in the crowd. I'm just going to relax and just swing at everything. And all of a sudden, it was all working for him, wasn't it?
It was. I mean, I know he said he brought like 14, 15 friends along with him, which probably definitely helped, as it seems. But yeah, he started out and he almost tried to match Farag, I think, which is a bad idea for anyone. I don't think anyone can match him when it comes to fitness and rallying. And I think he realised that. And in the third game, it was kind of well, I might as well.
Yeah.
What have I got to lose? And
go for
before
broke.
you know it, he's hitting it in the nick, he's dropping it from the back, his little cross-court drops from the front that just fooled Farag every time, and it was brilliant squash. I think at the end of each game I thought, right, this is it now. Farag's going to come out swinging here. Farag's still going to have energy in the tank. He must have tired himself out, Dasuki, I mean, God, when you look at Dasuki's journey through this tournament, he beat Gawad 3-2, he beat Elias 3-1, he beat Momin 3-2, and he's 2-0 down against Farag. You just think, he's not going to.
Yeah, he couldn't possibly. It
must have been pure adrenaline, but he brought it back from 2-0 to win 3-2. So incredible performance for him, and I think well deserved. It was, for me, great to see someone new with a name on the trophy. Probably one of his biggest tournament wins of his life.
Yeah, must be.
Not many people have called that.
I kept doubting him throughout the entire tournament. I just didn't think he had the tenacity. And he really seems to have, he held himself together, even when he down 2-0 against Farag.
One thing that really struck me about Ali was how kind of humble he was in defeat. You see some players kind of walk off court and they stay professional, but that's kind of as far as it goes. Whereas, at the end, Ali, you could see him talking to Fares and he could appreciate how much it meant for him. And he does kind of conduct himself really well. And I think he seemed really nice in his runner-up speech at the end as well. So he's a good figure for sport.
Absolutely, he's a classy individual. And during the match, he seemed like he was a little pissed off at Dasuki. There was a few where Dasuki took a shot that I think I'm not actually sure what he was mad about. Maybe he thought he should have held off on a potentially dangerous shot. From watching it from the video,
I remember when it
seemed okay to me.
Screamed.
But as soon as the match was over, he just left it all behind, and he just was gracious and he's a class act, Right, really well deserved by Dasuki for this first major victory of his, and a great tournament all in all. So, Rob, how would you how do you feel in sum about this tournament?
God, I mean, it had absolutely everything to this tournament. It had more 3-2s than you could ever hope for. I think unpredictable is probably one of the words that I'd use to describe it, especially from Dasuki. But yeah, do you know what? For me, it's just great to have squash back on telly.
I agree. I mean, for me, my sort of top word of the day is joyful. I'm just happy that they are playing squash. They've done a men's tournament. They've had exciting matches. They're still fit. They're still amazing. Great matches. And we didn't get a chance to talk about the women's side of this. Excellent matches.
The women's was even more
so
surprising.
Maybe there'll have to be a follow-up tournament teardown.
Tournament teardown.
And yeah, hopefully we can do this again.
Absolutely. All right, look forward to it.